lost all control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes in with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I see the chat thing is screwed up again. Hold on. Got to keep doing my homework here. This is it's kind of crazy. I don't know why it keeps dumping that, or it's seems to be creating a new URL for the live chat all the time, which it never used to do. I find that very interesting. But since it is, I got to keep updating it. I guess I'll have to start doing that before the show. But at least for now, it is now working. So, yeah, another one of those things. Thank you, Microsoft. Thank you, YouTube. I appreciate you making my life so freaking interesting. I just love me some interesting. But anyway, welcome, everybody. This is the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. And we are just about ready to jump right into it. But hello to everybody coming in the chat room. Great to see you guys piling in. It's always an honor to be here entertaining you, or at least trying to entertain you. Sometimes it works out better than others. Like, for instance, yesterday's show. The first 5-10 minutes were all muted because I'm sitting here yapping away and didn't realize that the driver updates or the Microsoft updates happened to reset all my settings for my production software, so my voice was not being heard at all. My camera was working, the connection was working, but there was no sound. So and thanks again to Moog for calling in and bringing it to my attention. Yeah, I don't know what the hell. It's always an adventure, but hello everybody. Thanks so much for coming in and being a part of tonight's show. I hope you had a good day. It is Tuesday night, so the week is flying by. As always, of course, tomorrow night, Don will be here with me, and we'll be doing our 2-hour Wednesday extravaganza, which is always a good time. So we got that going for us, but let me just say I hope that you're all ready, because it's time for bed. And we are at it, ladies and gentlemen, back at it here in the portal. So buckle in, grab a beverage, make yourself comfortable. I don't have much beverage left. And get comfortable and enjoy yourself. I hope to keep you entertained for about the next hour. So if all goes well, you will leave here within about an hour's time feeling entertained. If you're not entertained, then there might just be something wrong with you. Or I might have just failed, but I like the first one better. So anyway, guys, welcome to the show. As always, I've got some stories pulled up for you guys to hopefully keep you entertained. Tonight's word is entertained. Maybe it's subliminal programming. Maybe I'm trying to program you to being entertained. Maybe that's what it is. But anyway, let's say hello to everybody who's here. Who is here? How many of you are here? Not very many. How is this right? Well, I got like 20 coming in, or 20 on the roster, but only a few names up here. Beth Fierce is here. Bigfoot Odyssey is here. Hello, both of you. Cameron F is here, and Cha-Cha is here. Hello to both of you. DJ Big Red is here. Dub 45 is here. I am Pam, Justin Goodearth, and Cade Moya. Hello, Cade, and everybody else. Great to see you guys. Thank you so much for coming in. Mary Brim is here. Hello, Mary. I'm here. Rebecca79 is here. Renee Harvey's here. Duke is here. And as is Don. Don, you're here. You should just call in and be on the show with me then. I'm just saying, since you're available, But anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, shoot. Somebody else came in now, and I don't know who it was. Justin Goodearth. I think I said Justin before. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I was going to say that Hello Truth Hip Hop Consciousness. Welcome. I was going to say that today, the Believe podcast released their episode where I was a guest, and it was a great show, a great time, great discussion. Cade's our brother from down under, and I got to say brother from down under. So I don't know if I just made that up or not, but I think that's kind of clever. I like that. So, but it was a great show, great time. We had a great discussion, and it was just a great pleasure to be on there, Cade. Thank you so much for having me on. And if you haven't heard that episode, ladies and gentlemen, please do head over to the Believe podcast. It's just a really top-notch show. Cade does a marvelous job putting it all together, and he made me sound really good. I mean, he's got some secret sound deal going on there. He's kind of keeping under his hat, but he made me sound excellent. I sounded kind of sexy there. I was like, whoa. So nice job, brother, and thank you so much. Well, thank you. Kate says, it was a pleasure having you, Brent. Thank you so much. I mean, it really was. And I've gotten to know so many of those listeners that have come over and checked us out here on the portal. And it's really cool. I mean, the Australians are amazing people. And of course, not that that's your whole audience, but it's just a great opportunity to get to know people from different parts of the world that may not have heard of me or heard of the Paranormal Portal. So a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to us doing some more crossover stuff in the very near future. So we'll get to that. We'll get to it in due time. But anyway, check it out, the Believe podcast, and it's available on Spotify and all the major iTunes and et cetera, et cetera. So it's hard to miss if you look for it, and it's worth finding, believe me. And some of the experiences that people down there are having is just amazing as well. They've got a lot of stuff going on down in Australia, but then again, there's a lot of history there. There's so much history in that continent. It's pretty amazing. So definitely check it out. You won't be sorry you did. That's all I'm going to say. And not just because I'm on that show, just because it's a great show anyway. But anyway, let's get to some stories here. I got several pulled up and ready to go. If you came in and I didn't see a hello to you, I did some shout outs, but I don't know. Looks like the numbers are going up a bit. So, but thank you all for being here. Oh, anytime, brother. I mean, seriously, your podcast is really incredible. I do want to know what that secret sauce is on the mixing, though. That's really sounds nice. I was really impressed. Let's go to our story. Well, I got several, but the first one that I've got pulled up is from Missouri, ladies and gentlemen, and this one's kind of a long one, but I hope it's a good one. Let's see if it is. I got to get positioned here. I was coming in and sitting in my studio, and I'm like, am I getting shorter? What's going on here? And then I realized that somehow my chair had sunk down, so I got to back up now. I feel like I'm on top of the world again. So funny the difference a chair can make, but here's the story from Missouri. First of all, I just want to say that this is a really touchy subject. This story is about my cousin and best friend, Nayo, Nayo, and his visits after his death. Oh, wow. Nayo was murdered on June 25th, 2006. He was beat on the head with a hammer until he died. Oh, that poor guy. Oh, Jesus. What was really screwed up was that his friend, who was smoking crack, is the one that did this to him. They got into a brawl about an Xbox, and his friend stole the Xbox from Nayo's house, and Nayo went back to claim it, and the friend got so upset that he beat Nayo with a hammer until he died. There are other reasons why the crackhead was upset with Nayo, but it's just too long a story and can be irrelevant to my point. I can hardly even write this story since I'm not over the fact that someone took my cousin away from me. I miss him so much, and I hope he understands my pain. I was really debating on whether or not I should go to his funeral, and I kept telling myself, I want to remember Nayo as being alive, dancing, singing, making me laugh, and just being himself, and I don't want to remember him in a casket. Then I thought about God and what he would have wanted me to do, and my religion was telling me that I need to pay my respects to the dead, even if it meant my best friend/cousin's dead body. I still to this day do not understand funerals. I never will. I did go to the funeral, and I felt like my heart was going to shut down and stop pumping as soon as I walked through the double doors. My heart was broken. My body was shutting down. My knees got weak, and all of a sudden I was kneeling on the floor in front of the double doors, staring at his casket from about 35 feet away. My father lifted me by the torso and helped me back on my feet. I just felt like I couldn't breathe. In fact, I felt like I didn't even want to. I went and sat in a pew, and about 30 minutes later I built up the courage to say goodbye to my cousin. I slowly walked up to the casket and everyone staring, and when I looked at him I shouted, "That's not Neo." I started crying louder than I intended, and my father ran towards me and held me, and I told him, "That's not Neo, Dad. That's not Neo. He's cold and hard and he doesn't look like him." He tried to pull me away, but I didn't budge. I kissed Neo's hand, and in prayer I asked him not to leave me. I asked him to visit me in his dreams and watch over my child, while I walked back to my seat and continued to mourn. 1 week later, I offered to make rest in peace T-shirts for Neo to give out to my brothers and cousins. And after I picked up the T-shirts, I got in my car and a song began to play. Keep in mind, I was alone. It was a song from my CD. I was questioning what was going on because I never put that CD in. In fact, I didn't even know I had it in my car. Another thing, it was on number 12. It can't skip to 12 unless you skip the tracks forward. Well, I just listened. This was a familiar song since I had heard it many times before on my CD, and I had never related the song to my recent loss, though. The song is about losing a loved one. I began to sing along with the song, and I began to cry. All of a sudden, I got major goosebumps. The funny thing is I only got them on my right arm. My right arm was leaning on the armrest in between the driver and passenger seat. I was at a stoplight and looked down at my arm, and my hairs were sticking straight up, and I looked forward again, light still red, and I felt as if someone was caressing my right arm, and I look in the passenger seat expecting to see someone sitting there, but the seat was empty. I began to laugh and cry at the same time. I said out loud, "Neo, I know you're here with me. I feel you and thank you for visiting me. I miss you so much." I continued to sing even louder, and I finally made it to my grandmother's house with the T-shirts, and I told my grandmother the rest of the family what had happened. Most had tears of happiness, and they said that they were happy for me. A few days later, my brother Salvador and his friend went to the house where Neo was murdered, and they went inside the house not knowing what to expect. What they saw would scar their minds forever. He said that the walls were covered in blood and that there were puddles of blood all over the kitchen. You could tell that Neo tried to get away since there were handprints on the floor as if he tried to crawl away. This is the most horrifying. There were pieces of his brain on the floor. I was so disgusted and my stomach churned in horror when he told me this. He also stated that he and his friends placed candles in the room where he was killed and said a prayer. 2 weeks later, I went to this house with a few of my very close friends. Our purpose was to say a prayer in hopes that Neo would leave that place and go to a happier one. I stayed in the car while my friends went to check things out, and they didn't want me to see anything that would pollute my feelings even more, and they came back about 5 minutes later with pale faces. And I asked them what happened, and my friend Danny said, "Jasmine doesn't go there. Don't ever go there. We need to leave now." I said and asked why, and they both said that I would be traumatized if I did. I could see the lights flickering from the window, and I asked them, what is that light in the window? And Danny said, "Oh, there's some candles lit in there." And I would have never expected him to say that since my brother lit those candles 2 weeks ago. I was really upset because that gave me the feeling that Neo was still in there. Months after that, I had a recurring dreams about Neo, and it's the same dream every night. In front of my bed sits my computer desk and my computer chair, and I would dream that Neo was sitting there on my computer chair watching me sleep. Then I would wake up and stare at my computer chair, and he would never say anything in my dreams. He just stared at me with half a smile and soft eyes. It felt so real that when I would awake, I would expect to see him there. He never would actually be there, though. Fast forward 2 years, and I think Neo's worried and wants to tell me something. His mother hated me at first. After his death, she blamed his death on me. Well, that's not at all fair. She said I introduced him to those people, and so it was my fault he died. Like I mentioned, it's now 2 years later, and I think she is realizing that it's not my fault. The more she hears about how Neo felt about me, the more she loves me. She contacted my mom one day out of the blue. She told my mother that Neo is looking for me. Neo came to her in a dream, and he had a very worried look on his face, and he didn't say much. He just kept repeating my name. My mother told me what his mom dreamt, and I cried. At the time, I had been going through a lot of emotional issues, and I was really depressed and considered taking my life. I also think that he was showing himself to my 2-year-old daughter since she was only 1 month old when Neo passed. She never knew him. I never even spoke of him to her. She's too young, and my daughter can't speak in full sentences, and is very smart for her age. She just turned 2 in May. And one day I was upset and crying on my bed in my bedroom. I was going through a financial crisis, and I thought she was in the living room watching TV, and suddenly I heard her little voice say, "Mommy, are you crying?" I answered, "No, baby, Mommy's not crying." And then she said something that really put me in shock. She said, "Neo said don't cry." I said, "Baby, who is Neo?" She answered, "I don't know." So I didn't know what to think of this. And Neo had his issues when he was living, but I always thought of him to be an angel, not a ghost. I hope he showed himself to her as an angel. So if so, I'm really happy that he's looking after us. I'm so sorry about this story is so long, but I wanted to give details so that you could understand my feelings about this. Wow, what a horrible, horrible tragedy. It's just so... It's so devastating that somebody could do that to another person. You know, that they could just pound the life out of them. I mean, I don't know what kind of hole you have to have in you to make that a reality for you or a possibility, but I can only say that I feel so bad that there are people that are that broken, you know. Of course you have to be angry that whoever this person was just beat this person to death. I mean, just without recourse and without mercy, just beat him to death. And I suppose it could be the chemicals. I don't know. I mean, this isn't a psychology experiment or anything, but I don't know. It's just there's some stories that even though they're written, and this one's written a long time ago, I was getting choked up just reading it, just because I can imagine. I can't imagine. But just the pain that somebody must feel, and the anger and the hurt and the kind of hole that just never fills in your life from having somebody taken from you in that way. And all you can do is just hope that they're in peace, that they are in the light, that they're in a place of love and gentleness to, take away whatever pain took them out of this world. But man, some people are just brutal animals. That's just so sad. All right, so what was this one? I don't know if I'm gonna maybe come back to that. Let's see. Oh, did I already read that? No, I didn't. Okay, I'm just getting some more stories because that one was open from last night. I didn't end up having time to read it last night though, but I got it now. Okay, not this one. That's another one of those investigator ones. Okay. So I got some more stories opened up for you guys. So hello. We're getting up there. 36 people are here. It's climbing. The population is soaring here in the portal. It's great to see you all. Thanks so much for coming in. Oh, Dead Spider, how you doing? Smoking Joe, good to see you. Lewis, hello Lewis. Rick, Purple Hobbit, good to see you. Elaine. I'm just looking to see what other names pop up here. Mogion, good to see you, brother. Thanks again for calling last night and helping me helping be my ears so I know when I was connected. So Moog was right there. I appreciate that a lot. William Bennett, good to see you. Big Rob, 3080. Good to see you. You're just listening, though. Okay, gotcha. But welcome. Thanks for coming in to listen. All right, so let's move on to more of these stories here. This one's coming out of Wyoming, and this is kind of cool. We don't see too many Wyoming stories, but... okay, so this is the black dog story. This is in reference to the black dog story that we read. I think it was... I don't know. This is the person answering questions about it. So I think I'm going to skip that one because I don't know. We don't read these things back to back or in any kind of order. So they get pulled up when they get pulled up and it, I don't want to spend 5 minutes chaining the narrative back together so you understand what's talked about. And I'm not sure I would remember it all. So this one is coming out of Colorado and, let's see what it has to say. It's a pretty long one too. It's long story night here on the portal, but, unless you're in a rush, that's okay, right? All right. It says, well, I'll start this story with another story that led to the experience that I had. It all began when I was staying at a friend's house after the time of my first post. What the hell is that time? I don't know. These people. My friend lives not too far from my house at the time, and his father is one of the town's policemen. So this night we're talking to his dad as he got off work at around 12:30 or so, and we told him we had heard some weird knocking noises coming from upstairs while we were in the basement, but there was no one in the house. And when we would come up, and it happened 3 or 4 times, and all, note his mom was out at bingo and doing her woman's night out, and his brother was at my house with my brother. And we told him our first thought was our little brothers, but when we called my house, they were playing video games, and we had been for the last few hours. Plus, the door was locked, and when his dad had returned home, well, I started to say how I thought it was a ghost or a spirit or something of the sort, but my buddies swore that they didn't exist. Well, from there, his father started to tell us this story of him and his brother, my buddy's uncle, tried something they had heard was another type of way to communicate with spirits other than a Ouija board. They set up candles around the room one night and turned out all the lights. They set a pen and a little notebook on the coffee table in the middle of the room. They said the Lord's Prayer and then began to ask by writing it out on the paper if there were any spirits that would like to talk to them. And after a few minutes, my buddy's dad said his hand was drawn to the pen and he wrote the word yes. So they're doing automatic writing. Okay. So they started to have this conversation with something that was there, and that's all we heard of the story. My buddy still didn't believe a word his father told us, so we decided that we would try it down in the basement. So we set up candles and set up the table and grabbed some chairs and set up the pen and paper in the middle. And we sat around this glass table, and my buddy and I, and so we said the Lord's Prayer and then proceeded to write, "Is there anyone here who would like to talk to us?" And the pen sat there, no feelings or anything to tempt us to write came. So my buddy wrote the question one more time, but added vocally, is this a hoax? It's all a big joke. And right then, my hand slammed on the table, grabbed the pen, and started to scribble over his writing. He started laughing and was about to say something when he looked at me. He said my face was blank, but my eyes were staring right at him, but they looked evil. He asked whatever it was to stop and that he didn't mean any harm. And then I remember looking at the paper and asking what happened. Now, I was scared when he told me, but he said he wasn't convinced yet, so he wrote on the pad again, "If you are here, blow out one of the candles." Then all of the candles but one next to the pad went out. So he grabbed the pen and wrote, "Now light them all again." And they all flamed up like nothing had happened to them. For some reason, he still didn't believe that this was really going on, so I decided to try something from his father's story on the pad, and I wrote, "He doesn't believe. How can you make him believe?" Now, I admit when you first see this, yes, it sounds stupid, and the ramifications could have been bad and a lot worse than what happened, but They didn't, and I thank the Lord that they didn't. So my hand started to grab the pen and started writing. He again thought I was joking around, but I wrote, "Grab the pen and try to remove it from the paper." So he did, and he couldn't do it. So he yelled, "I don't believe you." And then his hand started writing, and then his hand started writing and said, "Hold this pen in the air." And my buddy then wrote that he would. So he held out his, I think his hand is what they meant, in front of him in the air. And he said he felt some pressure, but it wasn't too hard. And then all of a sudden his hand was pulled through the glass table, which was followed by his body. Oh, come on. I don't know if I believe any of this. This is a little too hokey for me. Now, by this time, his dad heard the commotion and had made his way to the basement in time to see what had just happened. And while I was sitting there scared for my life, his dad ran over and grabbed the pen and said the Lord's Prayer once again and wrote goodbye on the pad and then made both of us write it again. At this time, I didn't understand why we all had to write it, but now I do realize that this was still one of the scariest yet interesting things I have ever been through. At times, my buddy and I will joke about that night, but to this day, he says he will never doubt any kind of spirit or afterlife, thought, even if he hasn't encountered anything since. It was nice to know that he learned something from the experience. I don't know. This is, sorry, this is one of those that I don't buy. It's just, this is what I would call an orgy of evidence. This is one of those too much happening all at once, and it's like, whoa, it's too Hollywood for me, I guess. People don't get pulled through tables. You don't get pulled through a glass table. And now there's stories of people being abducted where they are sucked through walls and stuff like that, but I assume that has something to do with an incredible level of technology that we can't even begin to understand. I do believe people can be astrally projected out of their body. But I'm not sure that I buy the whole idea that somebody is getting sucked through a glass table and landing underneath of it. Unless I'm misreading this, and I don't buy that all the candles except one blew out and then they lit all at once again. It's like, what is this, Dumbledore showing up or what? It's like, not that it's not possible, but I've never even heard of that happening outside of, Hollywood. So. It doesn't mean it couldn't be true, but ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe this story for a second. Form your own opinions, of course. I'm not telling you what to believe or not to believe, but I don't know. That's just too much all happening just, conveniently because they decided to do it. Then all this amazing stuff happened, and I don't know. It's just too much for me. But anyway, moving on. This one's coming from Michigan. I got family in Michigan. Like my other story, this incident happened up in Pentwater, Michigan, and this also happened last year, which was 2007. One night, my grandma and my mom felt like a drink, so they left me home with 3 little annoying but cute kids. Nash, who is 5, and Nash can see ghosts. Nate, who is 4, and he is thought to see ghosts but can't talk because he refuses. Christian, who is 6, he's my little brother, and Shelby, a black lab. Like I was saying, both women left me home to watch the kids. Also, my grandpa was on cop duty, so we were the only ones home. Later that night, it was about 10 p.m., and the kids were starting to get tired, so I sent them up to bed, and just about an hour later, I fell asleep, knowing they would be all right. At about 12:13 p.m., I woke to children running through the second living room, and I thought that it was the kids because they normally wake up around this time because they're thirsty. And I thought that if they are really thirsty, they'll come and get some and go to bed. So I just shrugged it off, but once I started to fall asleep, I heard these kids running through the hallway again. I got up frustratingly and went into the room, and the 3 were staying in, and all of them were sleeping. I even pinched my brother really hard to make sure he was sleeping. He woke up sleepily and yelled at me, and I know if they aren't sleeping for real because they laugh or giggle. Still convinced that it has to be them or someone, I kept my bedroom door open to watch if I'll catch anyone running. Since the bedrooms are all face the living room, I will be able to see the culprit that runs around. Suddenly I heard the noise of the little feet running again, Looking out the doorway, happily, no one was there. I thought about it for a little longer, getting closer to being scared and then excited. Suddenly, I heard heavy boots in the bathroom that connects to the bedroom and the living room. Now, I knew it wasn't the kids because whoever that was wearing boots. And boots like that had to be at least, what? That person had to be at least over 100 pounds. And the kids certainly weren't that heavy yet. The toilet started to flush by itself. Getting up fast, I ran into the bathroom, but no one was there. With Shelby by my side, I had a little courage to lock the bathroom to make sure no one will be able to get in unless they use my bathroom door. My bathroom door. And there was no possible way someone can flush the toilet now. But as I got under the covers, the flushing came again. Finally, I was scared. Shelby, my courageous dog, now left whimpering and left me. She ran in the living room, but ran and jumped on the bed next to me. She was staring at something in the doorway. I was about to start screaming for all of this to stop, but before I could even open my mouth, everything stopped. The flushing of the toilet, the sound of the kids running through the living room, and even the heavy boots. I later fell asleep with the TV on, and I soon woke to my mom's voice. I tried finding the words to explain what had happened earlier, but I decided that I'd just tell her in the morning. It may sound ridiculous, but I had a dream later in the morning. I had a dream later in the morning. Okay, I did read that right. Just checking. I was being chased by an Indian that had red eyes, and whenever I looked down, there were bodies of a few children and the body of an old soldier. The red-eyed man wouldn't stop chasing me. Wake up. It's time to go to town, Hannah. It was my little cousins trying to wake me up. I tell my grandma about the dream, and she said that there were a lot of Indian burial grounds in the backyard, and there were deaths on the property. It was a freaky situation. Does the dream connect with the incidents that happened that night? The children and the soldiers have a connection between the heavy boots in the bathroom? Or do the dead children deal with the running ghosts in the living room? Can anyone give me any suggestions? I need someone, it says someone, to tell me that the dream means something, or if it's just a coincidence. I don't know. I don't have any suggestions. That's a weird one. But if there's that much history on the ground, I guess it doesn't surprise me even a little. We're up to 44 viewers. Welcome, everybody. Glad you came in. Thank you for being here. Make sure you're subscribed. I'd love to see you all subscribed if you're not already. And like the video if you would. That'd be great. So let's see what's going on here. By the way, the phone lines are open if anyone wants to call in. Has anything they'd like to share? Again, 720-923-0500. 720-923-0500. And you too can be on the portal with me. If you're watching this live, if you're watching a replay, then that's not going to work so well. So this one's coming from Ohio, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So my cousin Mary and I love seeing ghosts. So every time she spends the night at my house, we go ghost hunting at about 2 or 3 in the morning. Sorry, that was gross. Hold on. I just snorted into the microphone. Jeez. Sorry about that. I went full pig. All right, so they go ghost hunting at 2 or 3 in the morning, and most of the time we see our granny walking around. We hear someone say boo, or we hear a loud bang. Well, one night we did it, and I think the ghost got a little bit upset with us. Oh, thank you, Nadine. I appreciate that. It was about 2:30 or so. We grabbed my lantern and turned out all the lights. At first, there was nothing big going on. We walked around but saw nothing. We decided to sit on the couch in my living room and talk for a little bit, and then by our window, we saw a cloudy white figure walk in front of the window and past the wall. We were a little bit freaked out, but not too bad. And then we sat a little while longer, and we had all of the lights off completely, and no one else was down there with us. And I was just sitting there for a little bit, and then all of a sudden the living room light went on and then went off. I looked over and Mary was still right beside me and no one else was with us, as I stated before. We heard noises and everything, so I decided to tell the ghost or ghosts to give us a sign that it was there with us. Pull Mary's hair or clothes or something, I told it. Oh, that's great. Volunteer your friend. That's awesome. Nothing happened, and we decided to check the computer for a second because we got bored of sitting there, and we turned on the computer room light, and we were on it for about 5 minutes, and we started again. I tried to turn on the lantern, but it would not go on. My dad already put new batteries in it before, and they were just bought batteries, and it was turned on all the way, but it still would not turn on. Turn on, I said somewhat quietly. The lantern then turned on. Mary was starting to get a little freaked out, and I didn't really think of it. That was the sign, Mary told me, when we went to the living room and sat down. I wanted to find out if the ghosts were really with us. I turned it off. If there's anyone with us, then when I try to turn this lantern back on, make sure it stays off, I said with confidence. Sure enough, the lantern stayed off. We tried it a few more times, and it still would not stay on. It was about 3:15 or 3:30 or so we decided to call it a night. I went to turn the light back on, but when the room started getting very cold, I sat back down by Mary, and I made Mary come with me to turn the light on. And then the stove door opened, and then banged shut by itself, with no one down there but us. We were sure it was that the ghosts did not want us to stop. I'm sorry, ghosts, we told it. Please don't be mad. We just don't feel like ghost hunting anymore tonight. We've been at it for almost an hour. And after we said that, I turned the lights back on and nothing happened for the rest of the night. Well, that's interesting. It's kind of up to the individual, but I would be really careful about investigating the place that I live. There's some paranormal investigators that are fine with it, whatever, and that's cool. And maybe it is just fine. But I don't know, it just seems to me you could be encouraging activity by investigating it. You could be encouraging, or by virtue of investigating, you could be giving somewhat of a permission for it to happen. So, when you whip out a voice recorder and, you have a feeling, hey, I think something's here, let's find out. Whip out the voice recorder. Is anyone here with me? And then suddenly you get an answer. Because you're kind of engaging in that, not kind of, you are absolutely engaging in conversation. And that in and of itself is an express permission of sorts. And so I think it can be problematic to encourage that, because you don't know what's there, and you don't know what you're encouraging to speak, or to move things, or to influence the space around you. Like, if you're here, give me a knock on the wall, and boom, and then it happens. Well, you're encouraging that communication. You're encouraging that relationship at that point, in my opinion. I might be wrong. I might be right. I don't know. It's just my own opinion that I think that whenever you engage in that research in a place you live, you may very well be strengthening that presence, or at least emboldening it to act more aggressively or more assertively within your space. So be very careful about that. And it's up to you guys. Whatever you feel comfortable with, by all means, do what you feel. But I would just be careful, because once you start that relationship, you're gonna be dealing with it for a while. And it's not to suggest that every spiritual presence is a bad one. Most, I believe, are not. But it doesn't mean that they're always nice. So don't assume they're all Caspers. Is my point. So that's an interesting story, though. But the thing about that one is that, we get these little accounts, but they're little windows. So I wonder what happened after that. Did they get more activity? Did things ramp up in their house? Those are the questions I would be really interested in finding out, because it just seems to me, it's kind of like using, A Ouija board is a blind channel, but so are other things. And the one thing that makes the Ouija board, I think, more dangerous than most is because you are making yourself the blind channel. When you're doing EVPs and stuff, you are creating a permission of sorts for the spirit to interact with a device. So that device is not really a part of you. But when you're using a Ouija board or automatic writing or something, you are giving express permission for the spirit to interact with you to influence that piece of equipment, whatever that might be. And so, just be careful. And the reason I bring up the automatic writing is because we just discussed that in that fantasy story that we just read a while ago. I don't think that anything is inherently bad about any of it. I think that you just need to know what you're doing. You shouldn't open a portal you can't close. And so if you open a session, you need to know how to close it. And, like with a Ouija board, it's more than just going planchette over goodbye, and then it's closed. You should do more than just that. You should do several things to make sure that session is closed. Use your faith or, whatever your beliefs are to close the rest of it, whether it's religious prayers, holy water, whether it's sage, incense, candles, mantras, admonitions, whatever. So it's up to you, but just make sure it resonates with you. Okay, so this is coming from Tennessee. Nobody's calling. Okay, we're up to 48. Let's see what's going on in Tennessee. It says, it was late spring or early summer of 2005 when I knew that something wasn't quite right in my humble little home. I would hear movement in the house and have a feeling of being watched and the occasional touch, all the while being alone in the house. I've had a few visitors in the past. They came and left, but this seemed to move in and make itself at home. Before we go any further, let me give you a layout of my humble home. My house is actually a 20-something-year-old house trailer that is just a couple of windstorms away from the recycling center. The layout is pretty standard. As you come in the front door, to the right is a small hallway, and on the left is the bathroom, and to the end is a small bedroom, and to the left is the living room, kitchen, dining room combination, and on the far end is a small hallway that leads to the master bedroom with an attached bathroom. The back door is on the right before you reach the bedroom, and we have a back porch, but no front porch. The first sighting I had, I just finished mowing the front lawn, and came inside to take a break, and when I stepped inside, I noticed that the wife, Mrs. Frauen, wasn't in the living area. What? The wife. Is this his wife? Is that who refers to his wife? The wife is his spouse? It must be love right there. It wasn't in the living area, so I assumed she was either in our bedroom or on the back porch. And I did what any good husband does. I yelled, "Honey, where are you?" She answered and said that she was on the porch. Well, I proceeded to join her there. I'd taken no more than 2 or 3 steps when I saw it. It appeared at the entranceway of the rear hall before you get to the back door. It was a gold-colored circular-shaped disc about the size of a small saucer. It steadily grew in size until it was about the size of a dinner plate, and then it exploded. There wasn't any sound, but it didn't just disappear or fade away, it exploded. It lasted about a minute, maybe 2, and then it was over. I wasn't scared, just kind of stunned. He said, "I told the wife what just happened." The wife. That's such a term of endearment. Of course, she believed me, and we discussed what it could have been. Maybe I should say I didn't arrive at any answers, and that left me scratching my head, trying to figure this thing out. I didn't have long to wait because the answer lay just around the corner. About a month or so later, I was on the back porch tinkering with my weed eater, and the missus, now it's the missus, was at her sister's house. I stepped inside to get another cup of coffee, and as I looked towards the living room, I saw her there standing in front of the television set was a pretty little girl. She looked to be about 8 or 9 years old, with shoulder-length, slightly curly brown hair, and she was wearing a plain blue dress that came down past her knees, but not quite to her ankles. And she had her head bowed, like she was looking at the floor, or like a child does when they think they're in trouble. I couldn't see her face. I said hello, and she promptly disappeared. I still wasn't scared, but I was more than a little stunned. I was intrigued, and I wanted answers. You might say that it was this experience that brought me to this site searching for answers. The wife and I discussed both of these incidents at length many times. One night after I truly accepted her gift, she's a non-practicing empathic medium, as being real, she looks at me and says, "Abigail." I guess I looked at her like I was confused, and she said, "Her name is Abigail, and she lived here." That's the end of the story. Well, I'm glad they got to the bottom of what was going on there. Again, not a bad haunting, not scary, but a presence nonetheless. I don't know what to think of that dinner plate exploding thing. That's weird. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I just work here. The wife. That's hilarious. Professor Kelp. Good to see you, Professor Kelp. I don't usually get the learned type in here. No, I'm just kidding. But welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Who else has come in? Anybody I can see? Right off the top. Digger Dog, hello. I don't remember if you were here before or not. Sorry. Good to see everybody, though. Thank you, Tracy Marshall. How you doing? Good to see you as well. Yeah, I don't see Nadine, of course, is in here. Elaine is here. Hi, Elaine. Let's continue. That was the beginning. I already got that one done. All right, so what was this one? Oh, yeah, I kind of kept that one open just because I was curious. It was one that we read last night, and there was other stories that were attached to that I kept open, but I guess I should just close it and wait till we get to them as normal. Let me see how much time has gone by. We've been kind of cruising for a while. 47, we got time for a couple more, maybe more than a couple more. I don't know. I feel like talking, so if you guys feel like listening, I'll continue. By the way, remember on Halloween night here on the Paranormal Portal, we're going to do a Paranormal Portal-thon, and I don't even really know what that means, except it's going to be a really long episode. So we're going to be at it for a while. So if you guys want to be a part of that journey and are feeling like staying up late with me, you're welcome to do that. I know it's kind of a work night, so I think my audience is going to be kind of limited, but I don't know. It'll be fun. It'll be interesting. The other night, last Friday night, Deb was on, our psychic, and she did nearly a 4-hour show doing readings. And that didn't feel too bad. That went really quick. So we'll see how the Paranormal Portal-thon goes on Halloween night. But I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good time. All right. Let's go to Rhode Island. Rhode Island. This one's a pretty short one. It says, growing up, I'd always been religious, but there was no doubt in my mind about heaven and hell, demons and angels, and God and the devil. On the other hand, I was extremely skeptical about spirits, ghosts, and paranormal activity in general. I just couldn't imagine that after people left us here on Earth, they could come back to us at times. This belief was about to be seriously tested. One day my mom informed me a psychic medium would be at my aunt's house and asked if I'd like to go, seeing as the year before I had lost my grandfather and great-grandmother just months apart. Well, I figured I would go, but I had reservations because I'd heard a lot of scams involving psychic mediums, and this one was different. He refused to hear anything about our loved ones or who we wanted to contact, and we were not permitted to say anything more than yes or no. We began the session, and I waited and waited for someone to show up. And just when I was giving up, he said, "My great-grandmother appeared behind me." His physical description of her was perfect. Same with her personality and health. He pinpointed the reason she died, and certain physical traits were right on the money. Some things he told me just didn't add up, though. I wrote everything, and he told me down, and showed my parents when I got home, and the things that didn't add up, they were all true. It just so happened that I didn't know about those things in her life. So how could he have known? Although I did not get to personally see my grandmother as an actual apparition, my belief in spirits is completely solid. Just knowing that she is there is enough, and hopefully one day I'll actually witness the woman who practically raised me. I feel so comforted to know that my grandmother really is still with me, no matter where I go or what I do. Yeah, that's beautiful. That is a beautiful, comforting thought. I believe that too. I believe that once a spirit crosses over, they probably come and go all the time. It's the earthbound ones that I think are having trouble, and I think that that's kind of a choice. I think that there are some people that believe so firmly in a judgment, and maybe they're right. I'm not advocating nor denying it. I'm just saying that there's a belief some people carry that seems to qualify that they will have a judgment after their passing, and they will either earn their way to the heavenly gates or they'll earn their way to a basement of fire and heat. But and I think that some of them realize that they're dead, but they also realize, oh, good, thanks, Nadine. I think some of them realize that if they are indeed going to face a judgment, maybe they're not going to do so well. So they'd prefer to just stay where they are with what they know, rather than risk facing this eternal damnation that they believe may be waiting for them. And so I gotta admit, a closet's probably better than being stuck in a closet. Might be better than being in a lake of fire for eternity. But I don't know. I guess it depends on what you believe, and the show is never going to be about telling you what to believe or not to believe. But I just think that that's some of the logic that goes into some of these spirits being earthbound or remaining earthbound, or they feel that they're, in some cases their lives were stolen from them, and they have this hurt and anger, and I don't know if you can transition when you're so wound up like that, but maybe, I don't know. But just some ideas I'm throwing out there, because we always have new listeners, and I realize for some of you, some of the stuff might be really redundant, but, got to talk to the whole crowd. So let's go to Pennsylvania and see what's going on there. This is another short one. I was at my grandparents' house in Pennsylvania, not far from Philadelphia, and my sister and friend decided to use a Ouija board up in my mom and aunt's old bedroom, where my grandfather's old things were kept after he died, about a year beforehand. I fought them on it for about 5 minutes, but eventually gave up, being the only one with any belief in the paranormal, and Ouija boards scared the living daylights out of me. Nothing happened at first, and we were quickly bored and decided to watch TV. And while we were doing so, sitting a good 5 feet away from the Ouija board, the pointer started moving. We immediately shut the TV off and sat down around the board, too scared to speak. My sister began asking questions to the spirit: who it was, did they know our grandparents, why were they here? And right after she asked why the spirit was here, it began to spell out Dominica, Domenica. We had no idea who Dominica was, and became so scared that we threw the Ouija board into the closet and ran downstairs. So, there's a great instance of not closing a session. You've got to close that session. That's a portal at that point. At dinner, when my grandmother was out of the room, my sister asked my mom who Dominica was. Though most people had only ever known her as May, it turns out Dominica was my grandmother's name. My sister and I are convinced to this day that the spirit we contacted was my grandfather. I realize now how lucky we were, considering what sort of things can happen using Ouija boards, and none of us have used one since. After realizing that they could really work, they frighten me even more. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think they should be used with respect if you're going to use them. I think you definitely need to know what you're doing. You need to set your stage. It's not just a matter of opening a box and getting to it. You probably need to protect yourselves and set the stage, sage, cleanse, again, candles, prayers, whatever. make sure that you have some kind of protections in place. Because otherwise, I think it's just like, is there anybody there who wants to talk to us? Well, yeah, there's a pit lord demon in the backyard. He's decided to come in. It's just you don't want to leave the door quite that wide open, and you want to make sure to have things in place to keep darkness out. And I'm not advocating using them, so I'm definitely not advocating for ages 8 and up, which is on the on the box when you buy them. I don't think your 8-year-old should ever be, speaking to the dead through a Ouija board. But anyway, let's see what we got here. Again, Pennsylvania again. All right. So last night I was trying to fall asleep for like an hour or something, and I couldn't fall asleep. When I started to doze off a little bit, I heard a noise that sounded like a song, like a girl singing or something. I sat up and still heard the noise. I thought it was my phone and I was going to answer it, but my ringtone is not the way this sounded. And immediately after I heard this, I laid my head back down and closed my eyes to try to fall asleep. I then felt pressure on my chest and neck area. It was like I was being forced down into my bed and I couldn't move or sit up. And I heard rustling at the foot of my bed like there was something or someone else in my room with me. It really scared me. After that, my head was forced down into my pillow and my neck was turned all the way to the side, almost forcing it around in a circle, and I couldn't breathe or speak. But I was scared out of my mind and had no idea what was going on, and I could hear my sister in her room next to me, so I'm assuming I wasn't asleep or dreaming. My blanket was pulled down a little too without me touching it, and this was really freaking me out. Anyone have anything to say about it? I don't know what to do, and I'm scared to go to sleep tonight. Yeah, that's terrible. That sounds like a sleep paralysis, and I don't mean to ever make that sound like it can't be paranormal. I believe that there is a paranormal sleep paralysis, and I believe that it is probably caused by some sort of entity being aggressive. I do believe that there is a clinical sleep paralysis as well, that people just get kind of stuck in between sleep and wakefulness, and that chemical is still going through their body that disconnects the brain from the body so that we don't like run out a window when we're having a dream or something. I do believe that happens, but I really think that there's something else, and I think those old stories that are handed down through generations and through different cultures about things that can attack you in your sleep, I think we need to be, we've lost sight of so many of those things just because of our modern sensibilities. But people are still experiencing those same terrors that are as old as our civilizations. So there's definitely things out there, in my opinion, that may for some reason or somehow prey on people. I'm not sure what they take, if it's some of the life force, if it's just feeding off of energy or what, I don't know. But generally, a lot of people in this kind of situation experience, traditionally, the word that's used is old hag. They experience an old haggard-looking woman, like by descriptions, it sounds like the Wicked Witch in the Snow White and Seven Dwarfs story, the old woman with the apple. That's kind of what the old hags are depicted like, just that haggard, old, wiry woman that is always up to no good. And I don't know. But again, the legends of that go way back into the ancient world, so it's not a new phenomena. But our scientific-minded civilization doesn't allow for things like that, because that's just the hocus pocus and the superstitions of an age gone by. But I think there's a lot of wisdoms in there, and I think if anything is an indication that there's wisdoms in the old world, look at medicine. Look at how people are finding that a lot of these traditional herbs and stuff have these amazing curative powers and healing powers that we've been running to pharmacies to get, along with a bucket full of side effects. When, if you just eat like some dandelion or something, you probably would do better in a lot of cases than you would through a lot of our modern medicines that basically beat the hell out of our bodies. So, we've lost a lot from our ancient forebears, and I think that it's really good that there's such a resurgence of these things coming back. People really looking into holistic things, people looking into those old wisdoms, those old stories, so that they don't get forgotten, because, history repeats itself, especially when people forget that history. So Anyway, I don't know. Let's see where we're at with the time. I have a feeling we're about out of it. Oh, we went over an hour. We did pretty good, I think. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thank you so much for being here and being with me, keeping me company as I read these stories. I have a lot of fun doing it, and it's always a great pleasure. Again, check out the Believe podcast, Cade Moya's podcast from Australia. He had me as a guest, which was a lot of fun. It was a great time to talk about things I've experienced. And if you're curious about things I've experienced and haven't heard me mention those things on the show, I did shows about them. There's one bedtime story. It's called A Walk in My Shoes or something that I talked about a lot of my stories. But I did talk about them on the Belief podcast, at least a few of the more profound incidences that I've had. And you can definitely check it out. It was a lot of fun, and thank you again, Cade, for that. And I look forward to doing more with you, brother. But we are going to be releasing another podcast tomorrow, and this will be Susie from Boston. She wrote in and told me about her experiences, and she had some really amazing experiences. So we sat down and recorded a podcast. So definitely check that out. That'll be airing tomorrow, actually midnight tonight. It'll be available, but look for that tomorrow. It should be a great show. It was a great discussion. I mean, I liked it a lot. But and if you have stories of your own, ladies and gentlemen, that you'd like to share or have or appear on our podcast as a guest, telling me what you've experienced, I'd love to have you on there. So just reach out to me, or if you want me just to read your stories, reach out to me through email at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, and I'd be honored to share your story, or also be honored to have you as a guest on the podcast to share your own story. So lots of things going on, but thank you, Bama. Appreciate it. And thank you, Belle. Good to see you. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming in. Thank you, Christina. Great to see you as well. But what did it say? First time chatter. Oh, good to see you, Beastly Bronco. Thanks for chatting. I appreciate you coming in the door and saying hello to everybody. It means a lot. Thank you all for being a part of the family. You guys are amazing. We have the most amazing chat room in the entire internet. I don't care. I'd put it up against anybody's. These are just amazing people. So, yeah, I appreciate it. Good night, everybody. But what else was I going to say? I think that's about it. Make sure you're subscribed, though. I appreciate it if you guys would subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Paranormal Portal, Portl. And check out the podcast, available everywhere on the major podcasting platforms. And follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio. And I guess that's everything. But I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Stop by our Teespring site, too. You can get coffee mugs, stickers, sweatshirts, etc. They're all available, T-shirts. Be good to each other, be kind. Remember to find the magic in every day and laugh as much as you can. And I'll quit being so damn bipolar with my thoughts and just close the show. Good night, everybody, and sweet dreams.